Greetings WordPressers, Jakson here. In today's show we are talking about CSS, specifically custom CSS, and how you can use a plugin to become a WordPress CSS ninja. You know CSS, it's the stuff that makes your website look how it does. No CSS, you've got a pretty ropey looking website. But this isn't a CSS tutorial, this is a tutorial about how to add a bit of custom CSS so you can change some stuff on your website. You could do that in a couple of different ways. You could change or add or edit the style.css file on your template, but you shouldn't really edit your theme template files. You could install a child theme and add some CSS to your style.css file in there. Some themes actually come with a little place where you can put some custom CSS in them. And from WordPress 4.7 onwards, there's actually a place in the WordPress customizer where you can add some custom CSS. But my favorite of all time when it comes to adding CSS to a WordPress website is with, of course, a plugin. But not just any plugin. One specific plugin called SiteOrigin CSS. It's an absolute beauty. Not only has it got a place where you can add CSS, it's actually got a complete visual editor. So if you don't know too much about CSS generally, it's a great way of learning CSS and how it works in WordPress. So let's get on with the tutorial. Custom CSS with SiteOrigin CSS plugin. Okay, so I've got a basic page up here with some text that we can use for our CSS demo, and in the back end we're going to get this plugin installed. If we go to plugins, add new, and we have a look for SiteOrigin CSS, should be the first one that comes up, and it is, so let's install that now, and let's click activate. And we should have our plugin installed, all good. Once it's installed, you'll go to Appearance and you'll see there's a new menu item called Custom CSS. And if you click that, you get the SiteOrigin CSS plugin page. And it's just kind of like a white box. And if you know a little bit about CSS, for example, on the front page here, we've got this heading, which is H1 tag. And we put in H1 color red, and we save that CSS, and we go to back front end and give that a refresh. We should see we've got a red heading 1. Pretty simple stuff. Now, of course, you've got to know the selector you're working with and all that sort of jazz. So if you know a bit of CSS and you know how to perhaps use a browser inspector, that sort of thing, then it works pretty well. And that's a lot of the other plugins, CSS plugins out there, that's what they have. Just a box where you add your CSS, and it works just fine. But there is something else, something pretty fantastic. And if you have a quick look just above the text box here, there's a little eyeball icon. And if you click that, you get essentially a kind of what you see is what you get, a WYSIWYG editor for your CSS. And if you click on stuff, say heading 2, and we'll see that we've got options for all sorts of different styling. We'll choose the color. We'll make it blue. You see it turns blue. And when you click the little tick box to confirm it, then you'll see that we have got the H2 put in there. And we save that again and refresh the front end. You see we can do it all visually, and this is enormous. I mean, especially if you're new to CSS or you just kind of want to do things a bit quicker, it is absolutely fantastic. And it's got so many features, I couldn't even begin to list half of them during this short review tutorial. But let's have a look at a few more. So let's go back to our eyeball, our WYSIWYG, and we can start maybe doing a bit more text editing, and we can say maybe we want to make the font family for the H1 Georgia, maybe make it italic, that sort of thing. And you can see how quite quickly you can start changing styles and colors and all the rest of it. And it's not just text that you can change. You can change any element that you can see on the page, anything that's highlighted. So for example, this kind of site content area here, that I'm going to highlight that. And I'm going to move to the second tab, which is more the kind of backgrounds and things like that, and change the background to something else. So let's maybe change that to a sort of light mustardy yellow. And then maybe the header needs to change now. We'll kind of maybe bring that in a bit orangey. And even the top logo section, let's give that a kind of off green. So we'll give that a little save. And you see all the selectors that we put into, that we chose on the WYSIWYG are all here in the compiled CSS. And the reason this is good, especially if you're a bit of a beginner, you can actually see the styles that you are working with, and you can kind of teach yourself a little bit of CSS at the same time. So I've given that a save. Let's give that a refresh on the front end. And there you go. I mean, it's crazy simple. You can take what was a reasonably basic looking thing and turn it into something quite different, something quite new. There's some other great features, like you can put in background images. So if we could say, let's go to the header, instead of just having a plain old background color, let's upload an image. So let's go to select some files from our desktop, and I've got a couple of patterns here. And so let's get that swirl pattern. You select that, and look, instantly you've changed it to something a heck of a lot more interesting. So let's put a pattern on this section here. I've got another one, which is this one, this symphony. So I think that orange is looking a bit shaky now. So let's change that to white, and I think it could probably do with a border on the top and the bottom now, because it's kind of needs a little bit of something else going on there. So let's just put in a 1 pixel border, solid, and we'll just make that light color, and we'll get rid of the left hand side and the right hand side. So we've just got the top and bottom like that. And let's just change this H1 back to something that's a bit more in keeping with the vibe. And the H2. Maybe something like that. Actually, let's give that a little bit more darker blue. Save that. And of course, all the CSS is now compiled in the back in the CSS text file here. We click save and have a look at see what that looks like on the front end. And we've got something that's starting to look a bit different, a little bit more interesting. There's something else you've got to know about as well, which is, if you take a look on the right hand side here, it even gives you revisions. So if you want to go back to something that you did before, or you make a big mess of something, you've got backup. So an awesome plugin, a great flexible way of changing the way that you can style your site, even if you're an absolute newbie. One other thing is that it's totally free. You just sort of get it from the repo. But also, there is a premium version, which I totally recommend if you want to add Google fonts. So for each class that you want to add to, so rather than just change the color, the style, the size, the weight, all that sort of jazz, you can turn it into one of the, I think it's nearly 800 Google fonts now. So awesome stuff. SiteOrigin CSS, totally recommended. So there you go, SiteOrigin CSS plugin. It's my absolute favorite. Do you have a favorite? Have you got any comments or tips or tricks or anything else you want to share with the channel? Please go ahead and stick some stuff in the comments below. Love to know what you think. And if you like what you've seen, please do consider having a little go on that subscribe button. Till next time, I'll see you later.